I think we can start now. There's only my ugly face on the video. I hope you can hear me safe and sound. We can get started with this beautiful masterclass and virtual tasting. This is the fourth event of the series of masterclasses that we are doing with the Perbacco Wine Club during this fall and winter 2020 to finally get, a happy note of this crazy year. The first lesson, the first masterclass in virtual tasting was about the Brunello di Montalcino. Then we had the Super Tuscans. The third one 2 weeks ago was about the Amarone della Valpolicella. This is going to be about Barolo and Barbaresco. There are so many things to say about these two amazing wines that I will try to focus and to concentrate everything within 2 hours of virtual tasting and masterclass. Also, we have two amazing special guests that I'm honored to have with us, as well as I'm honored to have you guys following us via Zoom and via Facebook as well. Thank you very much for the beautiful support that we are receiving in this series of master classes. So Barolo and Barbaresco today, and within 2 weeks from now, December 27th, we're going to have the last masterclass, which is going to be about Chianti Classico and Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. And again, that is going to be very difficult because it's difficult to concentrate these so many topics within 2 hours. So we better get started for tonight. Barolo and Barbaresco is two of my favorite wines in the world, two wines that I love, made with the grape that I really envy to the people in Piedmont. I wish we were growing Nebbiolo in Tuscany as well, an amazing grape, Nebbiolo. So we have two special guests, Caterina Burzi from Burzi Winery. She's located in La Morra, in Barolo area, and Enrico Dellapiana. Enrico Dellapiana, co-owner of the winery Rizzi in Treviso, Barbaresco area. So for the ones that have never done this kind of event with me, now I will start with a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, which is going to last about 20 Italian minutes. So I think 25, 30 minutes, I don't know, where we'll be introducing the wines, the characteristics and the typology and the history, the story of these two incredible, charming wines and the story of Langhe area. Langhe is the area where Barolo and Barbaresco are made. Then I will introduce the two guests that we have, Enrico and Caterina. We'll have a conversation. I'll let them talk because I can only learn from them because they are very knowledgeable and two very down-to-earth winemakers. And with Enrico and Caterina, we will have a conversation. Then I will introduce the wines. I will do the wine tastings, starting with the wines of Enrico, with the two Barbarescos, and then we will do the wines of Caterina. After we'll finish the wines of Enrico and Caterina, the first 4 wines, you guys can ask any question to me, but obviously most importantly to the real stars and special guests of this wine tasting, which are going to be Caterina and Enrico. Not often you get the chance to have her ask a question directly to a winemaker of Barolo and Barbaresco. So you guys better take this beautiful chance. Okay, perfect. I think we can get started. I'm gonna start with the introduction. I'm gonna share my screen, and there you are. Okay, this is the presentation with incredible background of one of the most beautiful landscapes that we have in Italy. I think we are in Barbaresco. This is the tower of Barbaresco, the one that I'm pointing at now. And this is the Barbaresco area. You can see just vineyards, and vineyards. Because, vines are obviously nowadays the main cultivation in Langhe. So the Barolo and Barbaresco boom kind of changed the whole landscape in a whole region. Think about before, you used to have mostly hazelnut trees, which are the ones that you see on the background right here. In the lower part where maybe the wine is not so good, they put hazelnuts as well still nowadays, but mostly is vineyards. We will see the story, the beautiful story of these two amazing wines. So the title is, as you can read, Langhe, a love story. I'm very romantic, as usual, obviously. So the rise of Barolo and Barbaresco from the caprice, or it's more correct to say determination, of a French noblewoman to the top. So the journey has been pretty much of a crazy journey, the one of Barolo and Barbaresco, with difficult start, then a big success, and then many difficulties. And it's very fascinating to see how these two wines developed and became nowadays two incredible wines, considered as top wines in the whole world. So the introduction was made by me for the Perbacco Wine Club. Okay, just to give you an idea geographically of where we are, this is obviously Italy. I'm pointing at Rome now. This is Tuscany. This is me here in Montepulciano. And in the northwest, this is the region of Piedmont. In specific, you can see this is Langhe, the map of Langhe. In red, you have the 11 town hall, the 11 municipalities of Barolo, Verduno, Grinzane Cavour, La Morra, Castiglionfalletto, Serralunga, and Barolo, obviously, etc., etc. And in pinkish, what is like pink, purple, I'm not good at colors, obviously. You have the three municipalities of Barbaresco. So you see they're very close to each other. I mean, we're talking about in between here, you have to cross Alba, which is the main town of Langhe, where the truffles, the amazing truffles are made, and also Nutella. Nutella was born there. The great, hazelnut and chocolate cream, because this was mostly an area where hazelnuts were grown. So in between Barbaresco area and Barolo area, it's only 15, 20 minutes drive. So yeah, this is the map. So we start with the beginning. Early Barolo, a sparkling sweet red wine. Think about Barolo now, but Barolo might have been very different back then. So many historians, they have different theories. I found a quote by Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, which is very interesting. The guy was obviously loving his good wines. He was a big expert of European wines. So Thomas Jefferson described Nebbiolo as a sweet wine. So when Thomas Jefferson first tried Nebbiolo, he described the wine as about as sweet as the silky Madeira. Madeira is made in the islands in the Atlantic Ocean belonging to Portugal, as astringent on the palate as Bordeaux. So again, this tannic structure that we'll find out about during the wine tasting, and as brisk as Champagne. It is a pleasing wine. As brisk as Champagne, did it mean that the wine was vinified as a sparkling wine on purpose? Was it re-fermented by mistake? We don't know very well. So how the historians are stating that Nebbiolo was also vinified as we know it now, so as a dry red wine. We can suppose that as the grape ripens pretty late, mid-October, fermentation could stop due to cold temperature, leaving residual sugar in the wine. Like we saw with the Amarone 2 weeks ago, if in a wine, you finish the fermentation, all the sugars that you have in the grapes gets transformed into alcohol by the yeast. If you stop the fermentation at one point because the weather outside, the weather in the cellar, the temperature is a little bit too cold, you stop the fermentation and you leave residual sugars in the wine. Then you have a dessert wine. So this is probably why Thomas Jefferson, when he tried Nebbiolo, he said that it was sweet as a Madeira. For sure, from the 1830s, with the arrival of a French noblewoman, the story has changed forever. And we'll see what happened in the 80s, in the 1830s, in the beginning of the 19th century. Again, getting very romantic, the love story. So the love story about this gentleman right here, Carlo Tancredi Falletti, and Juliette Colbert, this French noblewoman. So Juliette married Carlo Tancredi Falletti, an Italian noble banker, in 1806. Juliette was accustomed to great French wines, and she saw the potential of Nebbiolo, so the couple started to focus on winemaking and in promoting this wine in the royal courts of Europe. So they did a tremendous job, not just in the winemaking aspect, but also in the promotional aspect, on the marketing aspect of the wine. And also, very important that they brought, the couple brought other two key figures in the Barolo Barbaresco scenario in the 1830s. We'll see who these two figures are in the next slide. So on the background, you have the town hall of Barolo. This is the Marchese di Barolo castle, which is just beautiful, surrounded by vineyards. It's a spectacular place. The two key figures that were brought by the Falletti couple were Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, and Louis Claude Houdard. So Mr. Camillo Benso was the key figure for Italian unification in 1861. He was so important that he became the first prime minister of Italy in 1861. So together, along with Garibaldi and Camillo Benso, Conte di Cavour, are the two most important figures for the unification of Italy. So Cavour was a close friend of the Fallettis because he was living in Grinzane Cavour, which is close to Barolo, where the Falletti family were living, and introduced them, the couple, to a great French enologist, winemaker, and wine merchant with whom he collaborated for his own winery in Grinzane Cavour, in the other municipality of Barolo. And we see, I didn't find any portrait of this guy because there's no photo. I've been looking for 2 weeks for a photo of this guy or a portrait, but I couldn't find it. So Louis Claude Houdard, a mysterious figure, provided the next significant leap forward for Barolo and Barbaresco, obviously, vinifying the wine in the French manner and bringing more attention to farming. So Barolo, thanks to these four important figures, is now the king of wines, the wine of kings. So one would imagine that, they lived happily ever after, but that's not really what happened. We see a series of excruciating events in the beginning, especially in the beginning of the 19th century, end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. The first one was for sure the phylloxera plague. So phylloxera, long story short, was an insect originally from America that was living in the roots of the vines. Is living and is thriving in the roots of the vines. So what happened? It happened that, of course, from Europe they were importing several kind of plants, and also American vines, obviously. The problem is, with the technological progress, the journeys of the ships in between America and Europe became much shorter because they were building, steam engines, and the trips were much shorter. So the phylloxera started to survive the long journey in between America and Europe. So phylloxera spread it at the end of the 19th century from the UK, and it devastated 9/10 of the European crops, of the European vines in the late 19th century. 95% of the wine and vines heritage of Europe was literally devastated, destroyed by this small, sneaky insect. It started to spread from UK, then it went up to France, Champagne, Loire Valley, Rhone Valley, Bordeaux, Burgundy, Spain, Portugal, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, Greece, all over Europe, and was a disaster. So you know how they solved the problem? After 50 years, that were pretty much, we lost all the heritage of vines and wine in Europe. They planted the American rootstock, and they put the European plants on top of the American roots. So even nowadays, 95% of the cultivations in Europe of the amazing wines that we're drinking now, they have an American roots. So the roots were genetically adjusted to the phylloxera. They survived genetically to the phylloxera insect. Very interesting aspect. Not many people know about the phylloxera. It's a very interesting part of history. The other events, obviously, as you all know, World War I in between 1914 and 1918. even though Italy entered in the war in 1915, 1918. Spanish flu, you know something about pandemics lately, obviously. This one was devastating, obviously, because it killed millions and millions of people. World War II from 1939 up to 1945. Italy also had the Mussolini tyranny and the fascist domination, obviously. So the country after the Second World War was devastated. And the post-war depression lasted for 15, 20 years. So what happened? Young people were emigrating to cities, mostly to Turin, to build Fiat cars, Fiat 500, obviously. But in the 60s, with the small economical boom of Italy, the renaissance of Langhe. Very florid period. So in the 60s, individual proprietors began estate bottling and producing single vineyards wines from their holdings. So what happened? It happened that there were all farmers before. They were bringing grapes to bigger wine cellars, but they weren't bottling the wine. So now they started to bottle the wine, and they saw that the results, were becoming pretty good. But not just Barolo was not the star of Langhe yet. Barbera, Dolcetto were the stars of Langhe back in the days. So in the 70s, interest grows for Barolo and Barbaresco, and youngsters are going back to the countryside. So this led to the next step, to a generational conflict, the so-called Barolo Wars in the 80s between new schoolers and traditionalists. It was a generational conflict, literally, in between fathers and sons and daughters as well, as we will see in the next slides. Another very important step is the MGA recognition, the additional geographic mentions granted by the Barbaresco in 1997 and the Barolo 2010, officially recognized the single vineyards. So very important, the concept of single vineyards. So to make a comparison in between Langhe and Tuscany, Piedmont and Tuscany, Piedmont is more similar to Burgundy from a cultural perspective. So single vineyards, only one grape, and mention of single vineyards. While Tuscany, as we saw with the Super Tuscans 4 weeks ago, we have a lot of blending here, like in Bordeaux. So Tuscany more similar to Bordeaux, Piedmont more similar to Burgundy, as well as I say Napa, similar to Bordeaux, and Oregon, similar to Burgundy. In Napa, you have blends, and in Oregon, you have Pinot Noirs. So culturally, the history of Piedmont is inevitably close to French culture, because there was a huge influence by France, as we saw with Juliette Colbert, because first of all, Piedmont is close to the border with France, and second, because they had a French domination for a very long time, and obviously, so they were influenced by the way of making wine in France. And we would see how the Barolo boys were influenced by French winemakers. The Barolo Wars, a generational conflict in Langhe. I love this part of history because this part of history is not just about Piedmont itself, but about all Italy. But in Piedmont, when they call them Barolo Wars, it means that the generational conflict was real. We have fathers that disinherited sons. We had families that split wineries into separate estates because they had different point of views. And it was pretty serious. So in the 80s, the Barolo boys, a group of ambitious and passionate young winemakers, decided to start a revolution in Langhe, one of the most conservatory areas in Italy and in the world, probably. If we Italians are stubborn, in Langhe, the Langhetto medium, the inhabitant of Langhe is very, very stubborn. This revolution was by applying Burgundian methods. So lower yields, small barrels, less tannic and more gentle wines. So the goal was to have more attention from international critics, therefore to make more money and to make amazing wines that could sell all over the world. So while the conflict became very dramatic and their leader, Elio Altare, smashed his father's big barrels with a chainsaw and was disinherited by his father the day after this happened. He smashed the big barrels with a chainsaw. And he was also accused by the priest of La Morra of wasting grapes. It was that serious, because wasting grapes was an act of, you know, against God, because you would waste food that God gives you. I mean, it was that serious. So this debate contributed to the growth of the wine from a quality perspective and dramatically changed Barolo and Barbaresco forever. So still nowadays we divide Barolo into groups: traditionalists versus modernists. And we'll see the differences now. Okay, this, is a picture taken from, this is the promotional photograph of this documentary that I highly recommend to watch, Barolo Boys, History of a Revolution. Please watch it, because this is something that, if you want to learn about Italian culture, about Italian wines, and about obviously Barolo and Barbaresco, watch this because it's incredibly interesting. So the Barolo boys, who were they? They were young, rebellious, and ambitious. The Barolo boys changed the whole Langhe region forever, aiming to make fine quality wines ready to be enjoyed on their younger side. Because before Barolo, they would say, okay, Barolo, you can drink it 20 years, 30 years from now. But they wanted to make an amazing wine that could be enjoyed in the short term. So with them, winemakers became entrepreneurs, and the name of Barolo started to shine all around the world, because this was a group of close friends, of young people. There was a lot of energy, a lot of beautiful friendship among them. And they were going to America to represent the Barolo and Barbaresco appellation. They were bringing their wines into the United States, and they started to get into the American market. And they started to be, awarded and rewarded by Robert Parker, by James Suckling, and by the international critics. So they were crucial, and they were inspired by the first wine superstar, a wine entrepreneur of Italy, which is this gentleman right here. This is Angelo Gaia, the man who put the Italian flag in the world of viticulture in the 70s. So still nowadays, Angelo Gaia, still alive, and still very smart person, very intelligent, and an amazing winemaker, is still nowadays considered as the point of reference for the quality of his wine and for his business model. So Angelo Gaia is the ambassador of Barbaresco in the world and a key figure for the renaissance of the Italian wine. Obviously, Angelo Gaia was coming from a wealthy family, while the Barolo boys were becoming from a very humble background. They were pretty much farmers, and they pretty much started from scratch. Here we have the difference in between the Barolo boys and the traditionalist winemakers. So traditional winemakers, I love this label. This is the most iconic label ever designed and made in history of Italian wine. In response to the Barolo boys, Mr. Bartolo Mascarello, very important, a key figure, a great figure, and he was also a former World War II veteran and partisan that fought against the Mussolini army. So against Berlusconi and the Barolo boys, he made this wine, no Barrique, no Berlusconi. Very political and very against this movement of the Barolo boys. You gotta love Bartolo Mascarello. Besides making some of the best wines that we have in the world, he was also a very bright mind, very intelligent and smart. So led by great figures such as former World War II, as I say, partisan, Bartolo Mascarello, Beppe Reinaldi, Cavalier Accomasso, Bruno Giacosa, Roberto Conterno, Mauro Mascarello, and many other great names, they firmly opposed to the Barolo Boys revolution in defense of tradition and continuity of Barolo and Barbaresco for the future generations. So what's the conclusion about these Barolo wars? So while it is true that no revolution has ever had a winner, this is my quote, it might be wrong, but I believe that no revolution has a winner. But a wind of change was needed in the economically depressed area of Langhe. So during this dispute, all farmers became entrepreneurs and started to have a more modern approach in terms of winemaking and marketing. So think about the first Barolo boy, Elio Altare, in 1976. He was seeing that these guys were farmers. They've never been out of the Barolo appellation or the Barbaresco appellation, never out of Langhe. But he was seeing in fancy restaurants that they were selling wines for Burgundy. So 20, 30 times the price of Barolo, right? So he took his car, a Fiat 500, and he went to Burgundy. He stopped at the first winery that he saw in Burgundy. There was no GPS. He had no map. He just drove to Burgundy straight. He stopped in the first winery that he found. And the owner of the winery in Burgundy, he was driving a Porsche, and he was going to Côte d'Azur to sail his boat in the Mediterranean Ocean. Very wealthy. And he was just a farmer. He was struggling to get at the end of the month. He was driving a Fiat 500 that he bought with a mortgage, and he didn't have money to sleep in a hotel in Burgundy. He slept on the car. So he saw this wealth in Burgundy, and he figured that there were not so many differences between Burgundy and Langhe area, and they could make a high quality wine. So he started to import small barrels. And this led to a generational conflict. He had a conflict with his father. As I said, he smashed the old barrels of his father with a chainsaw because the wines made in very, very old barrels, sometimes they had this bad smell of, like manure or very like dusty. He wanted to make a wine that was like perfectly, correct in terms of winemaking, that could be enjoyed by the people and that he could sell at a good price point as well. And this led to an incredible generational conflict. The first Barolo girl, the only Barolo girl, Chiara Boschis, she told me when I went to Langhe in February that she got kicked out of the house by her father because she bought small barrels from France. I mean, it was pretty serious. It was literally family feuds, like pretty bad ones. So, while nowadays the international critic is rewarding traditionalist Barolos, and many modernists went back to big barrels, so they found kind of a balance after the revolution, these young folks played a crucial part in the growth of the whole region. We're almost done. With the background of the beautiful municipality of Barolo, surrounded by beautiful vines, there's some technical information about the appellation. So grapes, obviously 100% Nebbiolo, no blends. An exceptionally demanding yet amazing grape. Very demanding because Nebbiolo is a late, ripens pretty late. So Nebbiolo in Italian, the etymology derives from nebbia, which is fog. It's a wine that you harvest in the fog because you harvest Nebbiolo in mid-October, and the weather can get pretty cold in Langhe area in that time of the year. So it can get pretty foggy as well. So you give the Nebbiolo the best vineyards that you have, with the better sun exposure, with the best draining, and with the best terroir. Barbera is a little bit easier to grow, and Dolcetto easier to grow. Nebbiolo very demanding. The aging for the Barolo is 38 months, 18 months in oak minimum, 62 months for the Reserva. The appellation granted the DOC status in 1966 and the DOCG with the highest degree on the wine appellation pyramid in Italy in 1980. The altitude must be in between 170 and 540 meters above sea level. And you have 11 municipalities and a lot of single vineyard, as I say, the MGA, the cruise. 21 first level cruise. A first level cru wine goes in between $80 up to $1,000. 78 second level cruise, price point is in between $60 and $300. And 82 third level cruise, the price goes in between $40 and $150 for this wine. We're talking about a pretty limited area of 2,149 hectares. They make 14 million bottles a year for a turnaround of about 400 million euros net worth per year. Barbaresco, smaller appellation, made with Nebbiolo grape, obviously. Aging is 26 months, so shorter aging, 9 months in oak minimum, 50 months for the reserve, as well as the Barolo granted the DOC in 66 and the DOCG in 1980. The altitude must be in between 150 and 550 meters, and you have 3 municipalities and 66 single vineyards. The area is much smaller, 662 hectares, 4.7 million bottles made per year for a volume that goes in between, around 100 million net worth per year. We're almost done, guys, with the presentation. We'll start drinking soon. Don't worry. Here, I try to sum up the differences in between Barolo and Barbaresco. It's very difficult to understand the differences. They are very subtle. They're two similar and equally great and amazing wines. I'm trying to generalize a lot in these differences. I can say that Barolo has a longer aging, obviously, while Barbaresco a shorter aging. Barolo is, as a general assessment, slightly more tannic, while Barbaresco is slightly softer and warmer, a little bit bigger in alcohol probably. Price point will be going between 40 euros and 1,000 euros for the Barolo, and in between 25 and 400 euros for the Barbaresco. The production, much bigger in Barolo, 14 millions, and Barbaresco, 4.7 million. So if you're wondering why Barolo is probably more often quoted by critics and, it's probably a little bit more popular than Barbaresco, because Barolo has, it's a bigger appellation. They make more bottles, but the wines are equally amazing, in my personal opinion. So the climate is slightly different. In Barolo, the climate is closer to the Alps, slightly cooler and more precipitations. While in Barbaresco, being closer to flatland and having the currents of the Tanaro River from the flatlands, the weather is slightly warmer. So we can say, that both wines smell of roses, generally, or violet, perfume, and cherry sauce, and they both have a very long finish and beautiful complexity. While it's not easy to distinguish the subtle differences between the two giants, they're extremely recognizable as Nebbiolos from Langhe, and they offer an unforgettable experience for every wine lover. So it's difficult to tell if you taste a wine, whether if it's a Barolo or Barbaresco, but if you have tasted a wine from Langhe, a Nebbiolo from Langhe, you'll be able to recognize, because they are unique, and this is the terroir of election of this incredible grape Nebbiolo. Okay, this is the wine lineup of the night, for you, afternoon. We'll find out why Barolo and Barbaresco are loved by all wine experts in the world. I never met a wine lover, wine expert that says, Barolo is not my wine, or Barbaresco is not my wine. Everyone loves Barolo and Barbaresco for their complexity. We have the first wine is going to be Rizzi Barbaresco Rizzi 2016. The second one is going to be Rizzi Barbaresco Cru Pailleret. The third one is going to be Burzi Barolo 2014. Then Burzi Barolo Capalot Cru Single Vineyard 2015. Marengo Mario Barolo 2015. And the last but not least is going to be Brovia Barolo 2015. I'll be introducing very shortly the special guests. First one, Caterina Burzi from La Morra in Barolo area, sales and marketing manager of Burzi Winery. Burzi Winery is one of, in my opinion, the rising star of Barolo, founded by Caterina along with her brother Alberto, a young winery destined for greatness. Caterina is one of the youngest people in the wine business, and I was very happy to meet her and to see the enthusiasm that she has and the brother Alberto has. The other special guest is going to be Enrico Dellapiana, co-owner and winemaker of his family winery, Rizzi, iconic estate, one of the most iconic estates in Barbaresco area, exactly in the municipality of Treviso. Enrico's key words are terroir and traditional, very traditional winemaker, and we'll find out about his amazing wines. I think we can, yeah. Let's see if Enrico and Caterina can enter online. Enrico and Caterina, you can enter in the conversation.
Okay, you can hear me.
There you are.
Ciao.
I need the video.
Can you hear me?
Ciao, Caterina.
Ciao,
I
ciao
can hear you.
Francesco. Perfect.
I cannot hear you, Caterina.
Ah, you cannot? Strange. I'm using the...
Okay. Ciao Francesco.
Hi, I can't hear you, unfortunately.
Not me?
Mary, can you hear?
I can hear Enrico.
Can you hear Caterina? Hold on a second, because I can't hear with this. I'm gonna change the...
That's not our problem.
I'll be back. We are live.
Okay.
This is beautiful. Okay, Troy says that we can hear them, but I cannot hear anyone.
Now you can hear me.
I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to be happy. The first accident ever in our master classes. I'm gonna put these ones on.
Okay.
I'm very sorry. I apologize.
No problem.
Don't worry.
Can't find the damn thing here. Okay, let's see if I can hear now.
Ciao Francesco. Can you
Francesco?
hear me?
I don't know what's happening. Beautiful, because we are live. I'll try not to panic.
No. It happens to the best.
Okay, let's see if I can hear you now.
Ciao Francesco. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Nothing. I don't know. Maybe I...
If I can hear you now, let's try with the speakers.
Ciao Francesco.
I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so I'll take them away. I don't know. Let me try without them.
I will try to switch to Mary's computer. I'm very sorry about this. Okay.
Oh.
I don't know why I can't hear you. This is crazy.
Francesco?
Okay, I will try to go to Mary's computer. See what video.
Okay.
Un bel cellulare va sempre bene.
Ma Enrico, tu mi
Now I
senti?
can hear you.
Bene, sì, sì.
Perfect.
Okay.
Here I am now. Can you see me?
Sentiamo.
Okay, beautiful.
Ciao.
I'm very sorry about what happened. Okay, Mary, puoi disattivare il video di quello? Non l'audio. Oh, you see Mary now? Okay. I'm very sorry about this. This wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, so Enrico and Caterina, it's beautiful to see you.
Thank you.
It is beautiful to hear you, most importantly.
Yeah.
I'm literally panicking because I can't. Okay, do you hear me twice?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry about losing these minutes of presentation. Okay, thank you very much, Enrico and Caterina, for being with us. I'm very happy
to have you live. You see, this is everything live, nothing prepared. And I just wanted to really thank you for being here. And I will start with Caterina. I'm going to ask you, for such a young winemaker like you, what does Nebbiolo and what does Barolo mean to you?
Okay, so well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. I'm really happy to be here with you and Enrico talking about Langhe. So, what Barolo and Nebbiolo means to me? Well, it's kind of a tricky question because, you know, Barolo means a lot of things to me. It's it's a lot of things. It's not just a wine. It's not just a region. It's about people. It's about families. It's, I don't know, maybe I would say it's something like a lifestyle, because, you know, we follow the entire process every day of the year. We work in the vineyard. We follow the process from the pruning to the harvest time. And once the grapes are finally safe and sound in the cellar, the work has just begun, because then we have to follow all the winemaking process behind, from Nebbiolo to Barolo. So, and then after that, we bottle it and we can finally enjoy and drink in it. So I would say it's really a lifestyle for me and for my brother. We really live it at 360 degree every day of the year. It's we are completely involved in this process, in this cycle of making wine.
Yeah, you definitely are. I can tell you, you are very, very busy, because this is, I think, Langhe and Burgundy are the two winemaking areas in the world where the biggest effort is put into the vineyard. So as you were saying, is a lifestyle, because you have in Langhe, you have a huge background, a huge culture of the winemaker is also, well, first of all, the winemaker is a farmer. Yes, and he works in the field. So literally is a lifestyle, and an amazing lifestyle, at least for us that we enjoy the Barolo. For you working in those steep slopes, it might be a difficult lifestyle, but for us, it's
during July.
Thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Okay, Enrico, ciao.
Francesco, ciao.
So the same question for you. Your family's always been in the Barbaresco business and in the wine industry. So you're young as well, not as young as Caterina. Caterina, she's the youngest person that I ever seen working in the wine business. Congratulations.
I look young.
Yeah, no, we look amazing, Enrico. Yes, you look great. So what does Barbaresco mean to you?
Okay, it's always the easy question, always. But anyways, Barbaresco, I was born here in this area. My family own field in Barbaresco area since end of 19th century. But was my father who started to make wine in 74. So it's interesting because I heard about your story about Barolo, Barbaresco. And so it's nice to see the 70s year. That is very important to understand that when my father moved from the town, from Torino, he make something quite different. So in the 70s, he moved from town and go to Barbaresco, to our family estate. And so when you ask me this project, for me, Barbaresco, I live in Barbaresco. I was born. For me, it's natural to be a farmer, but it's a difference. It's not just a farmer, like you say, in the 70s. No, so it's now when I say I'm maker, I'm a vigneron. This is much more easy. Say vigneron en français, it's better than in Italian. And so for me, Barbaresco is a part. I'm very proud to be a producer of Barbaresco. Sometimes people speak about this famous war between producer traditional Barolo, traditional Barbaresco against modern. So everything is a process. Probably this big conflict, this Barolo war, was much more for journalists than there was no fight between us producers. So it's important to say. It's just a stylistic idea. just some changing that's happened in the story. For example, for me, it's the traditional Barolo was very important and very famous. Sometimes people say, the Barolo boys make great the Barolo. No, the Barolo was great. Biolo was great. These Barolo boys, maybe they created something. So it was like a crisis. And so after this, that's the new synthesis is the wine that we are making now. So probably now the more famous producer is the actual traditional, but
yeah,
is important, is a big process. And then Barbaresco, when you ask me, because it's all people speak about Barolo, Barbaresco, we are small, less producer, very proud of our wine, but at the same time, I think that's we live this process, we understand, and I think that in this moment, all the producer of Barbaresco is very proud to make Barbaresco, and then we don't feel different between Barolo is the king, Barbaresco is the queen, and we think that the wine, Barolo and Barbaresco, is a brother wine with, okay, naturally, we are very close. It's 15 kilometers between Barolo and Barbaresco. But it's normal that we consider both wine, great wine, and there is no subdistance between Barbaresco just because we are small. We are small.
And
we are small. Sorry.
No, you talk.
No, that's we are small, but sometimes in the small thing is more prestigious also.
Yes, definitely. You have well, in both appellation, you have an incredible control of the quality of the wines, and I can tell that when you talk about Barolo, you talk about Barbaresco, and then, as I said before, it's difficult to find the differences, but a lot of winemakers in the past and even now they make both wines. So there's a lot of like Gaia. When I said about Gaia makes, he was born in Barbaresco as a winemaker, but he makes amazing Barolo as well. And other winemakers that make both, you know, Odero. Odero is the neighbor of Caterina. Odero makes the Barbaresco, Gallina, and also amazing Barolo, one of the most iconic and historical estates of Langhe. So often the two things go together, but I agree with you that Barbaresco has equal dignity of Barolo. The problem is from a numerical perspective, because Barbaresco, you know, it's a smaller production, 1/3 of Barolo, but they're equally amazing. So I think if Caterina has patience, we can taste the wines of Enrico, the Barbarescos, starting with the Barbaresco Rizzi from the Cru single vineyard Rizzi. So I'm asking you why the name of the winery is the name of the single vineyard. Obviously is linked. There's a big link in between the name of the single vineyard and the history of your family, obviously.
Because Rizzi is particular because it's strange. That's I live in so I'm Dellapiana, my family name, but now in the world of wine world, or people call me Enrico Rizzi because Rizzi is also a family name in many parts of Italy. So it's a strange that's I have customer. We call it also Rizzi like family name, and you okay? No, that's Rizzi is the name of the place where I live, the farmhouse where I live. I just live at the top of Rizzi Hill, and my farmhouse give the name Rizzi to all the hill. And when there was the subdivision of the Cru, also all the area is Rizzi. And so during in '97 decided that Rizzi is. But my father, when he started to make the first production of Barbaresco in '74, he gave the name Rizzi to the estate. So it's particular because it's not Dellapiana, but it's Rizzi, because it's the property. So we have more or less just in the same plot, Rizzi, something like 29, 30 acres in the same Cru. So we own probably 55%, 60% of the Cru is our. Oh, sorry. Okay.
No. I will be showing photos of the.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see. I want to show photos of the. I'm sorry that I have to switch in between computers, but I'll eventually get there. You can continue.
Okay, and so we have this property, and so when we decided to use the name Barbaresco, we have the cru Rizzi, and we decided to put Rizzi in the label. Some people say me, you're classical Barbaresco because Rizzi is just the name of the estate, but it's Rizzi. Also, there are some confusion in the wine list that people forget to use Rizzi like cru. But anyway, proud about this wine because it's my flag wine, so it's a wine very important. And I have a little bit more production in this wine because we have more vineyard in the Rizzi, but for me it's very important.
It's an amazing wine, and you know it doesn't matter if it doesn't carry your family name. You should still be proud of it because you know this is the story of your family and an amazing story. If I can say so, we are, you know, this is the map that I'm showing now. Rizzi, your winery is located in Treviso, one of the 3 municipalities of Barbaresco. You have the Cru Paiore, if I'm not wrong, is located in Barbaresco, right? The second wine that we're tasting.
Paiore is just is in Treviso. It's just
okay.
Very close to Barbaresco, but just the bound between Barbaresco and Treviso. But Paiore is still in Treviso, and also the Cru is another Cru always in Treviso. I'm very proud of Treviso, the higher village of Barbaresco, and so it's also for more just a little in the south, so far from the a little more fresh acidity, and so it's
yeah, you have beautiful elegance in your wines for sure. So I'm gonna show this is your estate here, the vineyards,
and I live just in the red house at the top. That is Rizzi farmhouse.
Oh, beautiful. You have an awful view from there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Horrible. Yeah. Okay. So I think we can start with the first wine. I give you some technical information about the first wine that we are tasting, the beautiful Rizzi, Barbaresco from the Cru Rizzi, 2016. Grapes, obviously, Nebbiolo, obviously. Aging is 15 months in big barrels, 50 hectoliters, 8 months in concrete tanks. The altitude is in between 220, 310 meters above sea level. The soil is white, more clay, and also calcareous with sand. Production is pretty small, 15,000 bottles. I mean, we are used to bigger productions here in Tuscany and in America, even not mentioning America, but your family winery is very popular, but still you make a small amount of bottle because obviously you focus on quality, obviously.
Yeah, that's in this is the average quantity in the 2016. I have to confess that it's more close to 20,000 because it was amazing vintage, the 2016.
It was beautiful from quality and quantity perspective, which are the favorite vintages, obviously. The first year production is 1974, as you mentioned before, alcohol percentage 14.5, and the price is going to be 34 euros. Okay, so we can start with the tasting. Enrico, if you don't mind, I'm never comfortable tasting the wine in front of the winemaker because I'm always afraid of saying something, whether offensive or stupid, but still correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah?
Don't worry, I leave you to the tasting.
Okay, perfect. Oh, cheers. Caterina. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, here we are. So we Rizzi Barbaresco 2016 Cru Rizzi. So Rizzi is obviously the name of the cru, as you mentioned before, and this is a beautiful, beautiful color, the typical color of Nebbiolo. So often, I'm gonna say it now, and I'm gonna repeat for all the wines probably, but often people think that if you have a big concentration in the color of the wine, you will have a wine that is full-bodied. So Nebbiolo is the complete opposite, because the Nebbiolo, sometimes the color is almost a rosé, but the body of the wine, of course, is, you know, big structure, very muscular structure, obviously. Also big tonicity as well. So the intensity of the color, it doesn't necessarily tell about the body of the wine. So, okay, the color is a typical garnet color. typical of a beautiful Nebbiolo. You have a beautiful light, beautiful acidity. This livelihood in the color is due probably to the acidity. It's a young wine, and my taste buds, when they see this color in the wine, they're already anticipating this kind of beautiful acidity, beautiful balance. Okay, let's see the nose of this. It's extremely elegant, obviously. As you mentioned before, elegance is very typical of the area where you're located, also on the top of the hill of the Rizzi crew. I think you have these beautiful temperature swings, or this beautiful elegance in the bouquet, very gracious. These notes of red berries, like a crunchy currant, typical note of wild rose, very typical of the Barolo and Barbarescos. Also this kind of leather character, and also some aromatic herbs like a Mediterranean scrub, beautiful. And also a kind of a balsamic note as well, and a final touch of like a raw mushroom, which is one of the most noble kind of earthiness. When you say a wine is earthy, it's a compliment. It sounds gross, but when you say a wine has got the earthiness of a mushroom, that maybe will transform within the years in the earthiness of a truffle, is like the best compliment you can make to a wine. Let's see the palate. Oh. Beautiful texture, great texture, and also tannic structure, beautiful. Of course, the tannin is firm, but it's perfectly integrated in the structure. There's an incredible overall elegance in this one. I'm gonna drink another sip, if you don't mind. And beautiful finesse. So the tannins, as I said, are firm but creamy at the same time, not too aggressive. And a very, very refined quality of the tannins. Beautiful, beautiful wine. And also, what I like of this is that it's got a very long-lasting finish. Very long-lasting finish with this beautiful red fruits in my mouth as I'm speaking. This kind of leathery aspect as well, and very long minerality. I think minerality and savoriness are very typical of the area where you're located. A lot of Barbaresco, they have this beautiful minerality that I like very much in wine. So I think this is a typical savory and also like nervous and cocky young Barbaresco. A beautiful example of pure Barbaresco essence. I think this is Barbaresco at its finest. This is the classical standard, what Barbaresco, good Barbaresco should be. You know, beautiful elegance, structure. And I think there's a huge longevity for this wine ahead as well. 2016 was an amazing vintage, but with this freshness, with this beautiful complexity, I think there's a huge longevity of this wine, 25, 30 years, but still good to drink now. I think the food pairing will be like a seasoned cheese, like a Parmesan or Pecorino, or like a meat stew. And I do wine pairing with music. I think this wine has a vibrant and rock personality, but yet very, very complex. I think it reminds me of the first Rolling Stones, where they were like playing, you know, rock music and blues. I think is a beautiful music pairing with this wine. I like it very much. Good job, Enrico. Beautiful. Do you have anything else to add about this?
Yes. Can I speak or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that is for me is important because my Barbaresco is important, the area of production of trades, for elegance, for in general the acidity, but also we speak about terroir, but it's important also the winemaking. So my idea of I drink many wines, so your cousin told you that I'm a big fan. I taste the wine every part of the world, big passion in Burgundy. And so I like taste wine. And then I have my palate, my taste. And so I try to put this idea of wine in my wine. So it's all my, in general, all my Barbaresco has this characteristic of good acidity, freshness. Sometimes people say me, yeah, but it need a little bit more. So it's quite linear.
Straightforward, vertical and straightforward.
Exactly, because this is the idea I have of wine in general. And so it's I try to make the elegance and make put on the characteristic of the elegance of the Barbaresco. That is the
and you manage perfectly, because I think, like you said, of course, I'm a big customer of winemakers, because I buy a lot of wine, but a lot of winemakers are my customers. So when they come to my restaurant or they come to my store and they buy wine, I sell a lot of wine to them, because I say, this is not an expense, this is an investment on your palate. So you should drink a lot. Buy this Burgundy, you have to buy this Champagne, you have to buy this Bordeaux, you have to taste Barolo, Barbaresco, Vino Nobile, and you have to buy all the wines, because I think a winemaker is really good to invest money into trying different wines in order to expand your knowledge, to expand your, to develop your taste, your own palate. I think this is beautiful.
And this thing is also, I think, important in the young generation. That's more and more people drink wine, respect the generation of our father. That's they don't drink so much. And this permit also for an integral area to grow up, because we can improve people. We taste together. We taste also the wine of the. I have a lot of friends. All my friends is a wine producer finally, and so we taste the wine in Barolo and Barbaresco. We make a meeting, and this is important for the area. So when the area is all together, make tasting.
Which I think it was one of the most important thing of the Barolo boys, because they were the first people to taste different wines. They were traveling. Also, the Barolo boys were traveling a lot to America, to the United States, because they found an importer, Mark de Grazia, that was, showcasing the wines of the Barolo boys all over America. And there were younger people getting together, having dinners and tasting wines together, having confrontations. So Rivetti, one of the most iconic winemakers of Barbaresco, one of the Barolo and Barbaresco boys, he said that one winemaker can have maximum, when he's old, can have 40 harvests, 45 harvests of experience. If you get 10 winemakers in a room, you have 400 harvests of experience. So this kind of confrontation is beautiful. And this is what you managed to create your generation in Langhe. And also, Caterina, you were telling me that your brother Alberto, you are tasting a lot of wine with your friends. And this is what we do in the Vino Nobile and in the Brunello di Montalcino appellation quite a lot. It's very important the younger generation develop their own palate. Okay, second wine is Rizzi Barbaresco Paiore, another cru, another single vineyard, 2016. Let's see the differences in between these two wines. Nice, I like this one too. I have the feeling that I'm gonna enjoy it. Okay, this is a great cru, as we said before, in the municipality of Barbaresco. Sorry,
we are in Treviso, but very close to Barbaresco.
Oh yeah, very close to Barbaresco. Okay, the color.
Odd.
The color is almost, if you see the light here, is almost like a rosé, as I said before. Very light, very transparent, which is the typical color of the classical color of the Nebbiolo. This garnet with also like a ruby reflections as well. So see the nose. this is intense. There's a beautiful intensity. What hits me in the glass is the beautiful bouquet, the beautiful intensity of this wine. Also very rich and very complex as well. The nose is like a violet, very floral, beautiful floral character, like a violet, like a wild rose as well. Again, we have like raspberry leather, a little bit more peppery than the previous one, probably with like black pepper, cloves, and a little bit of licorice as well. Very nice, very complex, very wide, you know, portfolio of aromas on this one. Beautiful, beautiful bouquet, but still very elegant, very neat, very precise, which precision, I think, is one of the best characteristics in wine. Another characteristic that when I do a wine tasting is one of the most important things, when you have the same smells that you, the same aromas that you smell are the same aromas that then you have in the mouth. This is very important. So yeah, this is very complex and deep, beautiful, beautiful bouquet. Let's see the palette. Nice. Very rich and generous. It's got a very nice impact. But one thing that is amazing about Barolo, what makes Nebbiolo amazing, sorry, I didn't want to mention Barolo, no offense, of Barbaresco and Barolo, of the Nebbiolo in general, is you have a beautiful impact, but then the wine is constantly growing in your mouth. While, for instance, Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, they have a big impact in the beginning, and then you kind of lose them in the mouth. Nebbiolo has a constant growth. It goes like this in your mouth, and at the end is majestic, it's triumphant. And this is what I like about this wine. This wine is triumphant. I mean, it's got a big impact in the beginning, but then it stays very long in the finish. Beautiful, beautiful texture of the wine. And there's a beautiful balance with this nice acidity and creamy tannin. The tannin is very well polished, creamy, beautiful, perfectly integrated in the structure of the wine. And as long as I speak now, after probably it's been 40 seconds, 50 seconds since the last sip, I still have this fruit in my mouth. So very long lasting fruity aromas as well. And this kind of like this herbal side, this kind of licorice side. I think this is a superb Barbaresco, beautifully made and perfectly balanced, that combines, you know, power and finesse, and also this kind of mineral touch that I like very much, the savoriness. I think all the components are perfectly balanced. I drink another sip because I love it. Very elegant, lascivious as well, beautiful, very rich in texture, very juicy. It would go perfectly with meat preparation, such as probably, you know, a steak with shaved white truffles of Alba on top. I think this would be like the perfect food pairing. Not a cheap pairing, but a beautiful one. And music-wise, I think this reminds me, this beautiful, deep character, this complexity reminds me of one of my favorite artists in music, Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. I think this is a music pairing that I like very much. Well, yeah. Anything to add? Beautiful wine.
Fantastic combination with Lou Reed.
Yeah, Lou Reed is the best, and your Barbaresco is pretty amazing too.
It's interesting that you tell in one moment of the tasting that the nose more spicy. This characteristic that is typical in the Pailleret. And then the fruit, and also it's more blues, you know, it's more dark. That's the voice of Lou Reed, you know. So it's
I got this one right, and I'm relieved.
Now, then always we speak the difference, even if the Barbaresco is always the finesse, the fragrances, but some characteristics. And then the vintage 16, that is wine to buy and keep for a long time without any problem.
But
So
also for drinking now also.
But no, the great vintage is good now and in the future. So it's
yes,
important
I totally agree with
keep
you.
Keep longer. No, that's the wine, and 2016 now is a really enjoyable. But you can keep also 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and no problem. But I prefer to drink a little bit younger the wine. So it's
me too. Me too. I like wines when they still have this beautiful acidity, and also very gastronomical, because you can pair this acidity, this kind of, you know, this young character of wine, this, I don't want to say cockiness, but still this kind of attitude of a young wine, because wines are like people. Younger people, a little bit more, you know, full of themselves, a little bit more cocky, a little bit more aggressive sometimes, while older people, they're wiser. Yeah. When, as long as you age, and for the wine, they have the same kind of evolution, you know. So I think I like, then there's an occasion to drink a wine on its younger side and its older side. But you need to have a lot of patience to wait 30 years for a Barbaresco or a Barolo.
I prefer to drink.
Yes, me too. Okay, Enrico, okay. Stay with us, because after we have the guest, the people that are watching might have questions for you and Caterina. And now, if you don't mind, I go with Caterina.
Okay.
So Caterina, like we said before, you're one of the youngest people that I know in the wine business. You started with your brother, Alberto, whose name is on the label. The name is Alberto Burzi, the name of the winery. Yes. So you work together with your brother, and you started recently.
Yes, I'll start by giving a little introduction. Yeah. My brother Alberto started making wine in 2012 with the support of the family, because, you know, all the family has always been involved a little bit in the harvest time, or maybe during the summer when you had some free time. But Alberto was the main one that studied. He really followed a specific path to become enologo, to become enologist. And he started in 2012. I joined him later in 2018 after I graduated in foreign languages. But well,
you speak perfect English.
Thank you, thank you. We are the first generation making wine, but we are not the first generation of our family that grow vines, because that's our lucky. We are very thankful and to our grandparents, because we owe everything to them. You know, our grandparents used to be farmers here in La Morra. They not only grow vines, but they also had hazelnuts and orchards. And as you explained, in the 60s, in the 70s, Barolo was, the atmosphere here was very different from what it is today. Barolo wine was completely different. So at those time, a young family would not feel so confident in starting their own business all alone and making all this huge investment in buying equipment. And so they just prefer to take care about the vineyards, manage them, grow vines, and then sell the grapes. And well, it was like that till the 90s, more or less, till the arrival of the Barolo boys, as you explained also. In fact, my grandparents, they were also lucky. Some of the Barolo boys knocked at their door and asked, "Ciao Luigi, ciao Maddalena, can you lease us some of your vineyards, because they are in very beautiful exposition, and we would like to make some wine out of it, some Barolo out of it." And so for the next 20 years, our vineyards have been rented to other young winemakers of the area. And then finally it was our turn. So since 2012, we finally started.
You can mention one of the most important Barolo boys, Roberto Voerzo, right? He was leasing one of your vineyards.
Yes, exactly. In particular, Capalot vineyard. Yes, yeah. Because I forgot to say, but our winery, as you as you said before, it's located in La Morra. And well, La Morra is like the largest township of the Barolo region for surface, but it has also the highest number of winemakers. Imagine that we are like 3,000 inhabitants in La Morra, and there are more than 70 producers, more than 70 winemakers. So,
and it's a mess because all the vineyards are close to each other. So sometimes you go for the harvest and you have 10 winemakers in one crew. So they're harvesting the same thing. It's crazy.
It's crazy time during harvest.
Yeah.
And so thanks to our grandparents, today we own 7 hectares here in La Morra, 1 hectare of Barbera and 6 hectares of Nebbiolo.
So you were mentioning that when Roberto Boerzio, when your grandparents, they saw Roberto Boerzio trimming the grapes, because the Barolo boys believed in lower yield, so they were cutting the grapes from the vines, which was something very blasphemous to say back in the days, because you wouldn't waste fruits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What did your grandfather think about Roberto Boerzio cutting the grapes?
Well, when Barolo boys arrived, they had a completely different approach to the work in the vineyard, and as you said, they wanted lower yield. So our granddad, Luigi, when he saw that Roberto was cutting down so many bunches in order to reduce the yield, he was like, "What have you done? Are you crazy? I'm going to call the police. What have you done? It's everything that I have been growing, and why are you cutting it down?" It was really, he couldn't understand his behavior. And it was, I think for them, it was really, something crazy.
I mean, now we talk about this dispute like it happened 1,000 years ago, but it was pretty recent. It was, 35 years ago. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. I think I'm going to show a few photos of your winery that you very kindly shared with me, so people can see. Yeah, this is again the Rizzi Enrico's winery. So you're located here in La Morra, Burzi winery, as I say, the biggest municipality of Barolo area. This is Alberto, this is you, and this is your other brother, whose name is?
Yeah, Emanuele.
This is the view of La Morra. And this is the beautiful video that you sent me about the snow that you had 10 days ago. Look how beautiful it is.
Yeah, we are, as you said in the beginning, the Langhe region is also close to the Alps, and so often in the winter time we get snow, and it's just good for the plants, for the vines to get this lower temperature and to get this amount of rain. So
also because snow gently releases water to the soil, while when it rains, maybe the soil drains the water. With the snow, it absorbs a lot of water for the future, for the ripening of the grape, for the next cycle of the vines. Very, very important. Okay, I think we can go with the characteristics of your Barolo 2014. Very, very difficult vintage. 2014 was a very challenging year. I think you had to sacrifice big part of the production, as many other winemakers, in order to focus on quality, because 2014 there was a lot of rain, very cold vintage, also in Tuscany as well. But I mean, the wine is pretty good, so we'll see the result of this. Grapes obviously 100% Nebbiolo, aging 18 months in big barrels, 30 hectoliters, 5 months in stainless steel. The altitude of the vines, 270 and 350 meters above sea level. The soil is white marl, clay, and calcareous as well. Bottles made for 1,000. First year of production, 2012, as you mentioned, when Alberto started, your brother. Alcohol percentage, 40%, and price, 47 euros. Okay, we go. This is the wine. Caterina, again, I'm very nervous to do this in front of the winemaker, so correct me if I say something wrong.
I'm tasting it with you, so yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
I can tell.
Beautiful. So this is the you didn't make Capalot. Capalot is like your single vineyard. You didn't make it in 2014, right? You focused to make the.
Exactly. We prefer to put everything together in only one label, but of a higher quality. So
yes,
which was really a Barolo classico, a Barolo traditional.
Very traditional indeed. Okay, so the color, kind of a garnet, but also like a red ruby side to it, very transparent as well. I mean, the color has a surprising intensity for being a 2014 vintage because there's a nice concentration in terms of color. 2014 was, as we said, exceptionally cold and rainy vintage. So you can see that you make a big effort into, you know, focusing on the production of this wine, concentration of the grapes. Yeah, let's see the nose. Nice intensity as well. Beautiful intensity. Like a red cherry, wild rose as well. Wild rose, very typical of Nebbiolo. Also a balsamic side of bole and eucalyptus kind of. Yeah, pretty balsamic as well. Also herbal, like these herbs, Mediterranean herbs, this kind of beautiful touch to it. Also a note of like a tobacco-ish character as well. But extremely, you know, extremely gentle and well refined, beautiful quality. And there's also a touch of blood orange that reminds me of Burgundian Pinot Noirs. This kind of, probably because of the cold temperatures, probably. Very Pinot Noir character in the nose. But I'm sure the palate is going to be different from a Pinot Noir. For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
A bit more tannic and more fresh, probably, but we'll see.
Yeah, acidity will be there. Very persistent.
Very bright acidity. Acidity, like a lot of acidity. The acidity is progressive and is, you know, it's very nice. I think this is a beautiful example of, since, like we said, 2014 was a much colder vintage than what we have now with climate change. I think we can say that 2014, the Barolos and Barbarescos are very close to what they were in the 60s and in the 70s before the climate change, probably, with this kind of, you know, acidity, this kind of tannic kick, probably because of the colder temperatures. You know, these acidity and this tannin are typical of the Barolo, although are beautifully, you know, integrated. But it reminds me of the old school Barolo, and I love this very much because it's got this. I like this kind of acidity, this beautiful freshness. I love it very much. I think we should also see this wine from a gastronomical perspective, in a wine pairing with some seasoned cheese or some meat, probably. That will help a lot, because if you drink it by itself, probably you will feel the acidity and the tannin a lot, even though it's very well integrated and well balanced. But yeah, I think with the stew would be perfect. Yeah, the tannin is it's firm, but it's very nice and it's perfectly integrated. And the overall structure, I mean, it's got a broad structure for being a 2014. And you can tell about the huge sacrifice you had to make in terms of production, in terms of concentrating into making a beautiful Barolo. I think you did a tremendous job. And Alberto was very young when he made this wine, 2014.
Yeah, exactly. 2014, it was something like less than 30 years old, so like 29 or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's when it was one like of
the third harvest.
Yeah, the third harvest in such a challenging year, but yet you guys did a pretty good job. It was very difficult to make wine in 2014.
Yeah, it was really a challenge for everyone. But those are the vintages in which you discover the good winemakers.
Yeah, it's in the moment of, you know, in the
Of
difficulties that you see
difficulties.
the true champion, like the game changer. Beautiful. I like this one very much. I think this, as I said before, this would pair perfectly with meat, like a stew, like a wild boar stew with game stew, probably would go perfect. With this acidity to wash the oiliness and succulence of the stew. I think it will be a perfect pairing. Music-wise, I think with this acidity, the straightforwardness, the verticality, I think the perfect wine pairing will be AC/DC, like with the voice, with the guitar of Angus Young and the voice of Bon Scott, like very straightforward, like Back in, you know, Back in Black, and this kind of like early AC/DC music. I think will be a perfect.
Determined.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you. You did a great description.
Appreciate it. The third one is gone. Let's see the fourth one. I'm gonna show the fourth wine, Burzi, Barolo, Capalot. Capalot is the mention of the single vineyard located in La Morra. Vecchie Viti, written right here, means old vines. And this is a 2015, right? I'm gonna show, which is very interesting, Caterina, the photos, the pictures that you sent me of the Barolo Capalot, the old vines. You see, this is your brother, Alberto, that I met when I met you in Langhe in February this year. And these are the old vines, 60 to 70 years old. You see the result. I mean, this is amazing. This is mind-blowing.
Yeah, exactly. They look like pieces of art, pieces of history, because they are unique. You know, every time we are there working, well, actually, in the first time I started working with my brother, he actually didn't want me to touch them because I didn't have enough experience to work and to touch them. So I'm still learning, okay? Because on that side, he is the master. He's the boss.
I can tell a winemaker is jealous of the old vines for sure.
Yeah.
Not even letting the sister touch them.
Yeah. But anyway, when we are there working, it's incredible. We really feel lucky and thankful again to our grandparents. Sometimes we imagine they are working with us there, and what they would tell about the vintage, what they would tell about the way we are working there, and all these things. Because
this is beautiful for you to see
this vineyard was planted by our grandparents, and yes, unfortunately, our granddad cannot be here to taste our wines, the one that we are finally making out of it. But we hope he would be proud of us because
I'm sure they are your grandparents. I'm sure they're very proud of you. From wherever they're watching you now, I think they're very proud of you. And I'm proud of you guys because I discovered you in February, and I will never leave you because I like the way your approach and the way you work. Okay, so let's describe the Cru Capalot. Technical description: 2015 vintage. You guys all know, for the ones that have seen the Brunello Masterclass, 2015, amazing vintage, obviously. 2016 goes towards the elegance. 2015 probably more into the power of the wines. So grapes, 100% Nebbiolo, obviously 60 years old vines that we saw. Aging 18 months in big barrels, 30 hectoliters, 5 months in stainless steel. Altitude of the Capalot vineyard in La Morra is 300 meters above sea level. The soil is limestone and marl. Bottles made 4,000, very limited production. First year production, 2013. Alcohol percentage, 14.5, and the price a little bit higher than the previous one, 63 euros, but it's worth every single penny, trust me. Okay, again, this is the label. Let's go with the tasting on this one. Let's see how I behave on this one, Caterina. So the color, beautiful garnet color of amazing intensity, beautiful garnet color, classical of old vines. You know, old vines, I explain this to maybe some people don't know that old vines usually have much lower yields, but big concentration in the wines because the skin is much thicker. So more skin means there are more tannins, more concentration of the aromatic compounds, and more personality and character in the wine. So I love wines made with old vines. So let's see the nose. Very deep and introspective. You can tell that this is old vines wine. Sour cherry, like a maraschino cherry on the spirit. Chocolate, very chocolatey aspect to it. Dried rose, dried flowers, like a potpourri. What hits me is the earthiness of this wine. Beautiful earthy notes of mushrooms as well. Very intense. Big balsamic character due to the old vines and to the warm vintage. Also like a cinnamon spice to it, tobacco character as well. Kind of a Campari character, like an orange skin as well. Beautiful. I mean, this complexity and this deepness and profoundness of and preciseness of this wine are overwhelming. Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful complexity. I'm looking forward. My taste buds are now throwing a party. My taste buds are, looking forward to taste these wines, and I'm gonna reward my taste buds with this beautiful one. Very rich, generous, obviously, overwhelming character, beautiful. I feel the crushed cherries and these red berries, like these more red fruits, in my palate. It's like an effluvium of beautiful red fruits, but also this kind of tobacco and chocolatey aspect to it that is beautifully complex. This one has a deep impact in the mouth as well as in the nose. And I think this is the complete opposite in style compared to the previous one that we tasted. The previous Barolo was very lean, very subtle. This one is much bigger personality, more persistence. It's difficult, it is the fruit of two different vineyards and the fruit of two different vintages, but two beautiful approaches. I like both wines in an equal way. Yeah, this is intense, concentrated, nice acidity. The tannins are pretty big, pretty fair, majestic, I would dare to say, majestic tannins. I mean, this wine, the balance is beautiful. It's a triumph of all these components that really come as aromas into my palate, and it's just beautifully made. I think this is a very nice minerality, a savory touch, which is beautiful. You can tell that these old vines that go very deep into the soil, and they get a lot of minerals from the lower part of the soil. They go like 5 meters, 6 meters beyond the soil. So I mean, they get a lot of minerals from the soil. So this beautiful minerality and the grippy tannin are fruit of the old vines. I think this would pair greatly with like a hard cheese and with game as well. Music wise, I think the wine pairing goes like with late Johnny Cash, when Johnny Cash was becoming a little bit older, when he sang the song Hurt, which is one of my favorite songs ever. I think this kind of earthiness and this warmness, this warmth, very similar to Johnny Cash, like, or Tom Waits, which are probably you're very young to know this music, but this is something like very blues, very earthy music that comes from the soul. I think beautifully made, amazing wine. You have anything to add, Caterina? I just spoke too much.
Well, you made us a lot of compliments, so thank you. And again, really nice description. I really like how you can define the tastes, the smell that you perceive. And well, yes, on Capalot, Capalot Vineyard, we always deserve all our attention, all our cares, because it's something unique. And as you said, every year we we really need to interpret the vintage. So 2014, we had to behave. In 15, we decided to behave differently. And yeah, 15 was much warmer than 14. So it's, I think it's a little sweeter than the 14. Yeah, the 14 has that kind of sapidity in itself. Instead, 15 is a little sweeter, it's very concentrated. It's like tasting the fruit itself.
Yeah.
And
one thing that we're saying about the Barolo boys is that every vintage with them, it was the same at the beginning. So the traditionalist winemakers that were saying every year the wine is the same and you cannot tell the difference in between the vintages. But here you can tell you're very traditionalist because these two vintages, they're completely different from each other, but equally amazing. They reflect the vintage in which the wine was made. So, I mean, this is your job. This is what you have to aim to. And I think you succeeded perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so if someone has any question for Enrico and Caterina, welcome back with us, Enrico.
Just I move away.
Okay, who do we have online? We have Christopher and Annette, Daylene, Annette, hello. We have Ralph, good friend Ralph Modena, Stephen and Davidia, and Troy and Beth. We have them online here on Zoom. Plus we have another couple of hundred people probably watching us on Facebook. Any question for you guys? Raise your hands, ask questions. This is a unique opportunity to ask a question directly to a Barolo or Barbaresco winemaker. No questions? Where's Stephen? Stephen and Davidia from San Francisco, and Troy and Beth from Atlanta. You guys have anything to add or ask? I'm gonna count until 10.
Ciao, ciao.
Oh, there you go, Stephen.
Ok.
And Davidia from San Francisco.
Sì, ci manca il video.
I'm activating your video.
Ok, grazie.
Glasses on.
Okay, I tell Caterina, Enrico, and the people that are watching, Stephen and Davidia are the two most popular people in the series of masterclasses, and I'm glad you guys are with us. You guys are amazing. I love you. Where are your drinking hats?
Oh, they're right
Where are
here.
they? The Perbacco Wine Club signature. There you
Un
are.
attimo.
There we go.
Ok, siamo pronti adesso. Molto grazie, ragazzi. Molto grazie. Listen, these Barolos and Barbarescos are just so morbido, so beautiful and soft, but yet so complex. You know, I think the traditional Barolo and Barbaresco is, you know, that we're accustomed to. You know, you put it down and you wait 10 years and then you pick it up. We have a friend who likes old Barolos and Barbarescos, and I'm sorry he's not here because this is just a dream to be drinking these. They're not sweet, but they are just so velvety and smooth.
Yeah, it is a great point, I think, for Enrico and Caterina, because many people are, when you, like we were saying with the Brunello in the first masterclass, you say Barolo, you say Barbaresco, and people are like, yes, they're good wines, but you have to drink a Barbaresco that is aged for 15 years, or you have to drink a Barolo that is aged for 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. This is not necessarily true. Like Enrico was saying, you can drink them on a younger side. So I want Caterina and Enrico say, why should we drink younger Barbaresco and Barolos? We can start with Enrico.
And one other question, I've asked this one before. Sure. What do you both think about the current vintage and the future? So
2020?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so just to speak about, the last question is the new vintage. So for example, now I'm just finishing the malolactic fermentation in the Nebbiolo 2020. And the vintage, I think that is probably another 2016. It's really amazing vintage. Probably during the pandemic condition, but the nature is still alive, and 2020 probably is the most beautiful thing in this particular year. I'm very happy. 19 more classical, 18 I just bottling the Barbaresco. It's nice. It's a pleasure to drink this 2018. Very fruity, very sweetness, easy drinking, I think. 17, even if people think, 17 is very hot. I have some Barbaresco with a good freshness, acidity. This is good. 16, we speak about. That is incredible.
One of the best vintages.
That's also in Barbaresco. 14 was a very lucky vintage, so it was good. More fresh but good, and then the 15 is warm and then great vintage. So fortunately, we have many good vintage, and so this is a good thing. About to drink the wine younger or older. So the big problem that's in the past with people say, the old traditional Barolo and Barbaresco was very heavy, difficult. You have to wait. The modernist, we can say, they try to make Barolo and Barbaresco more approachable. Even if I continue to say that they add more tannins with barrique, and for me, it's not so approachable. Now, probably in the last 10 years or more and more producer is making wine enjoyable. And I try to make wine that's weight, probably also the knowledge, the technology, the work in the vineyard in particular to make a grape perfect ripeness analysis that you can do.
Yeah, and also probably the warmer climate has been a big influence about this. Probably you have more ripening of the grapes. Is what I.
Absolutely, yes, because of the wine with the acidity of the 70, we can tell moment in the last 20 years. So probably I taste the first vintage of my father, 74. I opened 6 bottles, and 6 bottles I finish and I really enjoy. The alcohol was 12 or 12.5. Acidity probably was very, very high at the beginning. In this moment, think about one Barbaresco, 12.5. I can say, wow, no, that is impossible.
Impossible.
We are 2 degrees higher respect now, average always. So
and you are kind of defending yourself in Langhe, in Tuscany. We are sometimes it happens really often that we have wines that are 15.5, 16% in Brunello and in Vino Nobile and in Chianti. So it's becoming kind of a serious thing. So we are starting to approach the climate change with new techniques and new ways, which is very, very challenging.
No, it's a challenge. Also, for example, the green harvest that's in the 90s.
Yes.
Reduce a lot. And now probably we have to pay attention because the weather is changing. And then also we are warmer, or the grape ripe is much easier to arrive at good ripeness, and so it's maybe also good balance in the vineyard different in the past.
Okay, Caterina. So first question: how was 2020 in Barolo? And second question: why should we drink younger Barolos and not wait 25 years? Granted that we will be alive for such a long time.
Okay. So, well, 2020 vintage was actually a good vintage because I remember during lockdown there was a lot of sunny days. It was really a good spring.
You were harvesting with the T-shirt, right?
Yeah.
We saw the pictures before.
Yes, because it was always about 15 degrees or something. We are lucky to have a good temperature swings in autumn, and so Nebbiolo can ripe very, very good. The skin can get can get thick thanks to this lower temperature in the night and higher temperature in the days. Yeah. But then also during the summer, well, we got some storm actually, especially in the Barolo region in June and July. But then in August, things went back to normal and it was very hot. And then nothing to complain about. September was dry, what we always hope for. And then the weather continued like that with these good temperatures, winds till the harvest time, which was very classical time this year, very useful. So around the middle of the second, third week of October. So
like the standard harvest time.
Yes, exactly. So we have good expectation about this vintage. We cannot tell, but the potential is good.
We will see. Because also with wine, I mean, I always say, and I repeat to every masterclass and every wine tasting I make, wine is 98% about science and about chemistry, 2% about magic. So maybe you arrive to a vintage that is perfectly balanced in terms of weather, but you have to see how the wine develops. Like we've had some vintages in Tuscany, I think about 2008. Everyone, when we went to harvest 2008 Sangiovese in Tuscany, everyone was skeptical. But then 2008, you open it now and it's just amazing. While other vintages such as 2007 that were hyped in the beginning, now, I mean, they had an evolution, but they didn't evolve as well as 2008. This is something that, you know, science sometimes cannot explain. There's something like a magic factor to the wine. And this is why we talk about wine. We don't talk about Sprite or Fanta or Coca-Cola, because this magic aspect, I think, is what's very fascinating about wine.
Yes, exactly. The winemaker in the end is always putting part of himself in the wine, and that is the added value, because then the wine is alive.
So, Caterina, we should drink young Barolos. We don't have to wait too long.
I don't like to push people. I always say it depends on tastes of everyone. But yeah, the thing is, things lately changed a lot in the winemaking. So today we have more technologies, more knowledge, and so we can do a lot of analysis before picking grapes, so that we can really find the right time to pick. And this influences a lot the kind of structure and tannins that we get out of from the grapes. So also, and then also the temperature control that we can have in the cellar, the quality of the oak that we have today. These things are factors that helps in getting the wine more approachable. And yeah, also the weather, the climate change, these higher, warmer temperatures are making it a little bit rounder in the taste, in the structure. So yeah, we can drink young Barolos, but well, when I say young, I say meaning 10 years old, and maybe not older, but from 10 years old going.
Let's put it this way. You need to buy a lot of Barolo, and part of it you drink it now and then you wait. Part of it you open, you buy 20 bottles, you open 2 bottles now, next year you open 2 bottles, every year you open 2 bottles to see how it develops.
Okay, I always suggest that to my customers. You cannot buy only 1 bottle. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Case.
You
have to buy 1 case, exactly, Enrico.
But in your case, people speak about case and not bottle.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I think I can let you, Enrico and Caterina, go. You have been amazing special guests, and I'm honored to have you here. Sorry for the technical inconvenience with my audio. And thank you very much for your patience. You've been with us for 2 hours, so I won't keep you longer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie, Enrico.
Grazie a tutti.
And grazie, Caterina. I will come back to Langhe as soon as they let me out of Tuscany, because Tuscany, for some reason, Tuscany is still in lockdown, in complete lockdown, and we don't know why, because there are very few cases, and also multiple channel is empty. Still, people in Rome can walk in the street, and in multiple channel, no one is here. We don't know why we're locked down. But as soon as they let me out of the town, I will come and visit you in Langhe, which is a magical place, and I highly recommend to our people that are watching us to go and visit Burzi and Rizzi winery. Thank you guys very much. Grazie mille, ragazzi.
Thank you, grazie.
Okay, we have other two wines. I promise I'll be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we go onto the fifth wine, which is going to be Marengo. Marengo, Mario Marengo, located in La Morra, very close to where Caterina lives, Burzi winery is, La Morra. Mario Marengo is one of the Barolo boys, very exciting to see. Marco Marengo, sorry, the son of Mario Marengo, this guy here. This is the nephew, this is the wife, this is the son, this is the wife. They're located in La Morra, and they belong to the Barolo boys. So it's very interesting to see the difference in between 4 traditionalist wines that we tasted and this modernist wine. So Marengo Mario Barolo 2015, grapes Nebbiolo, obviously, aging 24 months in French barrique. So these guys are Barolo boys, very exciting. Altitudes in between 260 and 350 meters above sea level. Barrels made 8,000. There's more production still. First year of production, 1899. Think about all the disputes, the family feuds that this guy had to go through with a winery that started making wine in 1899, embracing the Barolo boys philosophy. Crazy. Alcohol percentage, 14.5%, price 42 euros. Here we are. So this is the wine right here. Marengo Barolo 2015. This has been selected on the Perbacco Wine Club in April 2019, this particular wine, because I love this very much. It's a beautiful expression of the modernist Barolos. Let's see what the wine is. Another garnet color with a ruby aspect to it as well, like red ruby reflections as well. See the nose. More intensity for sure, being a Barolo boy, more concentration of the grapes and smaller barrels in the aging. Like a big ripe cherry, almost like a maraschino cherry under spirit. Dried plums, and also licorice and tobacco character as well, with hints of sweet chocolate, like sweeter spices than the previous ones for sure. Tobacco and sandalwood as well, like this kind of wooden aspect to it, which is not overwhelming. Like, you know, the Barolo boys had the same transition as many Napa wines. Napa wines in the 90s, they were very oaky, in the 80s and the 90s. And then they found kind of a balance, probably. I'm generalizing, obviously, here. Many Napa wines, they started like on the big oaky and toasted side, and now they're becoming more on the fruity character, obviously. This is an evolution of the palate, of the drinkers, an evolution of the hand of the winemakers as well. So the wooden side is not too overwhelming, it's not too oaky, but beautifully and perfectly integrated in the elegance of the wine, obviously. Let's see the palate. I have a couple of mosquitoes and bugs in my, a couple of fruit flies in my glass, but I'm still drinking because I'm not vegan, so I can do that. Very rich, lustful, big concentration, generous structure, very generous in terms of structure, and also in alcohol with a firm tannin, The tannin, you can feel the tannin is the astringency due to these polyphenols that you find in the grapes. This astringency that I have in my tongue, in my gums, and in my lips. Inside my lips now, I have this astringency. These are the tannins, but yeah, beautifully integrated. The tannins are more firm than the previous wines, probably because the wine is more concentrated in terms of, there's more pulp, there's more juiciness to this wine compared to a traditionalist Barolo. Yeah, very robust structure. Concentrated with an effluvium of raspberries in the mouth. It's a typical modern Barolo, son of one of the greatest Barolo boys, as I said before. Very ripe, very powerful, very rich, but still with a very long-lasting aroma as well. Beautiful expression of a modernist way to make Barolo. So I think this is a beautiful. I'm very, happy and glad about the structure of this wine. So you can see the differences in between a traditionalist and a modernist Barolo. Very, very, very interesting. I think food-wise, as well as the other ones, will go really well with game, but also with the steak, I think. The music pairing comes very natural to me. Since this generational conflict of the Barolo boys, I think the song by The Who, My Generation, expresses perfectly this beautiful, this great conflict perfectly. So The Who, My Generation, I think is the perfect wine pairing with this wine. It's very easy and very natural to make this kind of wine pairing, music pairing. Beautiful, beautiful modernist Barolo. I like it very much, very much. We go to the fifth wine. Oh, sorry, to the sixth wine, the last, but not least. I'm gonna show you a few photos of this wine. So this is one of the top estates, not just in Langhe, so in Piedmont, but in whole Italy and probably in the world. Brovia is now becoming one of the biggest names for Barolo. The wine critics always mention Brovia, and they are like the rising star of Barolo, even though they've been making wine for more than 150 years. They're very traditional winery. So they're located in Castiglione Falletto. They have some of the vineyards in Castiglione Falletto and some of the vineyards in Serralunga. And these are the photos of the Brovia family. This is Elena Brovia, which is now leading the winery. Yeah, this is the photo of Serralunga, the vineyards in Serralunga. Brovia Barolo 2015. Grapes 100% Nebbiolo. Aging is 24 months in 30 hectoliters barrels, so old school, French and Slovenian oak. The altitude is in between 200 meters and 300 meters above sea level. The soil is limestone and clay, beautiful. We presuppose this beautiful minerality. Bottles made, even though this wine is very popular, only 13,000 bottles, so very limited production. First year of production, 1863. Incredible history. Alcohol percentage, 14.5, yes, exactly, and 64 euros price point. Yeah, this is it. Brovia Barolo 2015. Brovia is a synonymous of grace and elegance, very loyal to the pure essence of Nebbiolo and of Barolo. Nebbiolo of the finest quality. The color, this is garnet, but more on the red ruby side. Beautiful luminescence, very beautiful light to it. Incredible light. I love this. The color of this one is beautiful, spectacular. The nose is pure elegance. I mean, this is we are tasting one of the most incredible expressions of the Barolo terroir and one of the highest expression of Italian wines and wine that the highest quality that we can reach in the world, I think. Brovia is one of my favorite. Beautiful elegance, class. This is a true champion of finesse. There are notes of ripe plum, cherry jam, violet, very floral as well, and dried rose as well. Chocolatey, slightly peppery, like a black pepper, but very slight and gentle, and tobacco as well, with a gentle touch of coffee, and again, some like orange peel, orange skin as well. Incredibly intense, elegant, and like addictive. I'm compulsively putting my nose into the glass. I cannot help it. The quality of this wine, of the smell of this wine, of the aromas is incredible because it's complex, is intense, is fine, refined, is very precise. All the components are incredibly integrated. I mean, this is beautiful. I'm crying tears of happiness. So see the palate, if it confirms the quality of the nose. Perfect. Very warm, structured. There's a beautiful structure and intensity. But what strikes me is the balance among the components that is unique and incredibly refined. This wine is perfect with a never-ending finish, beautiful, long-lasting aroma, elegance, and a majestic tannin. I mean, this is an effluvium of beautiful flavors put together. The one that I was smelling, like this, like cherry, like this blackberry, blackcurrant, tobacco, and this orange peel, beautiful, like lasting forever into my mouth at this moment. And my taste buds are in awe, are in ecstasy, literally. Beautiful acidity. Also creamy tannins as well. I mean, the wine is obviously still on the young side. You can drink this in 40 years and will be much more refined, much more complex, but still beautiful elegance, beautiful elegance in between all the components. So the acidity, perfect. The tannin is majestic and creamy, and beautiful, nice mineral touch to it. The savoriness is beautiful. This is perfect with like noble poultry, like a guinea fowl, a pheasant with truffle as well. I think with truffle preparation, this will be like the pairing ever. Like you know, like a pheasant, like a guinea fowl would be beautiful. Like with duck as well, would be perfect. And music-wise, I think this is so perfect that I think I'm gonna use the music pairing with my favorite band ever, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. This introspectiveness, this quality, this finesse, this elegance of all the components, I think is pure Pink Floyd. I think we can go with, I can play my Pink Floyd card on this one. Even though I loved all the previous wines and I love them very much, but all the wines that have like equally amazing and very different, but still similar, incredible and impeccable quality. So chapeau, Brovia. Amazing wine. So we're almost done. Just a few minutes. I tell you the price list. So this is the Perbacco wine list. Free shipping to the USA, obviously, as usual. The price of the first wine, Rizzi Barbaresco Rizzi, is 34 euros. The second wine, the Rizzi Barbaresco Paiore, 47 euros. The third wine from Caterina and Alberto Burzi, 47 euros. The fourth wine, the Cru Capalot from Burzi, 63 euros. The fifth wine, the Barolo Boy Marengo Mario Barolo, 2015, 42 euros. And the last one that we're tasting now, Brovia Barolo, 2015, 64 euros. So the deals, the 12 bottles combined for 2 bottles each, 565 euros, 12 bottles of your choice minus 5% discount, 24 bottles of your choice minus 5% discount, 36 bottles or more, I will clean your car for a month. This is a deal. Okay, perfect. So I think we can say each other's goodbye. thank you very much for your attention. Let's see who we have online. We have Dailin Bennett, thank you very much. Christopher and Annette Bear. You guys have done all the wine tastings, as well as Stephen and Davidia. Thank you, Ralph Modena. Thank you, Troy and Beth Spencer. I love you guys in Atlanta. Agai and Scott and Yali will watch this in the next weeks from Detroit. And many other people will watch this in the next weeks, because I know you guys have restrictions like we have in Italy. Obviously, it's a difficult moment, but I'm confident that soon the situation will solve and that we'll be able to travel. Thank you very much, Christopher. Again, Troy. Yes, Troy and Beth, I need to clean your house because you bought 36 bottles of Brunello di Montalcino. As promised, I will come to Atlanta and I will clean your house. Promise. But also, I'm very much looking forward to meet you in Italy. I cannot wait for all the countries, all the world to go back to normal. I cannot wait for this shit show to come to an end, because this is a shit show, seriously. These restrictions are crazy, and I want to go back to normal. I want to see you guys around in Montepulciano. I want to work my back off in the restaurant Osteria del Borgo that is now unfortunately closed. We probably be opening in March. Who knows? We don't know, because there are no clear rules, especially here in our area. Thank you very much for your attention and for the great success of this series of master classes. I'm sorry for the technical inconvenience. We had those 5 minutes where I panicked. I lost the few airs that I had left. I lost them all in those 5 minutes where my audio wasn't working. Very sorry about that. I will try to cut this on the recording version. Thank you very much, Enrico and Caterina, for being with us. It's amazing to have two great winemakers from Langhe area. Sometimes these guys it's difficult to catch up with them. It's difficult to find them, but they were extremely gentle, kind, and available. Thank you guys very much. Thank you all for watching. Again, every time we are with this, you can register. This is the last day to register for the masterclass of December 27th of Chianti Classico and Vino Nobile. We have 3 amazing Vino Nobile, and we have, listen to this, a Chianti Classico. We have the same wine, Reserva 2016, and the same Reserva, the same wine, 1998, from Querciabella, one of the top wineries in Chianti. So we can finally make a comparison in between the current vintage, 2016 Reserva, and an aged wine on its peak, 1998. Don't miss it, because you will regret it for the rest of your life. So this is tomorrow is the last day to register for the masterclass in order to get the wines in time. So www.perbaccomontepulciano.com/masterclasses. My email is perbaccomontepulciano@gmail.com. Instagram, Perbacco Wine Club. You find the recorded version on Facebook, Perbacco Wine Club, and on YouTube, Osteria, on the channel Osteria del Borgo. Thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry again for the technical difficulties, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Merry Christmas and enjoy your holidays. Thank you guys very much. Bye-bye. See you soon. Ciao.